Hello. No.
Still not working.
Hi. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome.
There you are.
I'm so glad that you're here tonight. If you need to know where the bathroom is, just ask that guy because he knows. Otherwise, it's down there. We'll help you find it. Otherwise, thank you for coming out tonight. I think that whatever knowledge you or wisdom you may have, you're going to be blown out of the water with what Britany has to share tonight. So Britany is an incredible woman, period. She's an incredible woman of God, but she has a passion for what God says about our health and wellness and nutrition, and she doesn't make you feel guilty that I've never, like, I don't go to gyms yet. I don't like do exercise things yet. Like, she doesn't shame you. She just has this beautiful anointing on her life and this beautiful way of really just teaching you what the Lord says with zero shame and just inspiring you. So prepare to be inspired. So without further ado, Miss Britany.
Thank you. I haven't made you feel guilty yet. So
I didn't get donuts, okay?
that's true. I saw the fruit and veggies when I walked in. All right. First off, thank you so much, you guys, for having me tonight, my husband and I down. We're in your territory now, which is really cool. I haven't been to this church yet, and so obviously part of World Harvest already, but really thankful to be here. Thankful to all of my pastors for this opportunity. Who I am, so I'm Britany Juza. That's my husband right there to the right of me, and my brother and his wife and beautiful family, so I'm really glad that they're here. I wanted also to thank Mary Ann for coming all the way from Spooner, or Shell Lake. So really cool. She's on our run club, so she just did our 5K all day last weekend with us. She's an amazing woman. So a little bit about Matt and I. We have a lot of animals, and despite what my mom and mother-in-law think, it's not a hobby farm because all of our animals either feed us or love us, and we love them just as much. So we have cats and dogs. We raise pigs for meat. We raise rabbits for meat. We have chickens for eggs, of course, and we're looking into maybe getting a sheep soon because we love lamb's meat, sheep meat. So a lot about our animals. Super into the outdoors. Anything that you can do that's activity to include running, biking, but also just even like splitting wood. Anything you can do outside, we're just happy to be there. And I convinced my husband the first year we got married to put in a wood boiler. So we do spend a lot of time harvesting wood, and it's a lot of fun, at least for me. So last year I got a gym membership, and it cost me $120. And it came out to $60 a visit, so I decided to cancel it. But I wanted to work out religiously, 1 to 2 times a year around the holidays. I am a product of who I listen to, so they say that at the Army as well. All right. So, 11 days ago, I was mentioning how we did a 5K all day. And so what that entails, my husband and I hosted, it was our second annual, and we run 3.1 miles every hour on the hour for 8 hours. And then on the 9th hour, we do 1.4 miles to complete a full marathon in a day. And I've done both a through marathon and this event, and those breaks between kind of add like a harder aspect to it. At least mentally, you just gotta re-break your bones every time you go out to run. And so it was 11 days ago, and I remember at hour 6 thinking, why do I do this? Why is this fun? Why did I don't know. And then 5 days ago, or Saturday evening, I had the opportunity to do a Norwegian foot march. So that's with the military. And you wear your pack, your uniform, your boots, and you do 18.5 miles at a certain pace to pass. And so you do one of your laps through daylight, and one of your laps are through the nighttime, so the dark kind of adds a little stuff to that as well. And I think it was mile 13. I literally, no one's around me, I can't see anything, I'm tripping over everything, I got blisters, I'm just in a lot of pain. And I'm even calling my husband, and I'm in tears. I'm just I'm just why am I doing this, And it's humorous to think about it now. It's not at the time. But so anyway, so I've had these 2 events, and so the ruck march, like I said, it went through the night. And if you know me, I go to bed at like 8 o'clock at night normally. And so this, I finished at midnight. And then I had a 2-hour drive home. And so I'm like exhausted, and I'm keeping Matt up so that he can keep me up on the drive, and again, and I'm thinking, why am I doing this? Why did I do this? But I refused to say that I would never do it again. Like, I wanted to. I was close. Like, Matt can attest to that, I just kept saying, man, I won't say it, but that was tough. And the reason that I refuse to say that is because of the same reason that I'm here tonight, because here I am, like, preparing the last couple days and getting ready, and this morning, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, the way that I feel right now, why am I doing this? Why did I commit to this? And it's for the same reason that I commit to those things, because once the blisters go away, once the pain in my body goes away, once I'm rested and my body recovers and my mind recovers, there's fruit in it, and there's fruit in that discipline, and there's fruit in saying yes to things. And so just as for me, there's fruit in you guys coming tonight to hear a word from God and hear what God's design is for nutrition. And I'm just so thankful that you're here. Thanks. So maybe you guys thought that when you came tonight that you were just going to hear about the latest trends of working out and the latest fads of what to eat or not to eat. And I spent years sharing that stuff and speaking on that stuff and coaching everybody on that, and that's just not what I'm going to talk about tonight. So you're going to hear a little bit of what I recommend to do and what I believe God is telling us to do as a church. But I hope that it doesn't disappoint you. I know it won't. So, because in 1 Corinthians 3, it talks about the foundation of God and how everything is built. If it's not built on his foundation, it's like slippery soil and it's going to fall away. And so that's what I want to set tonight. I want to give you guys the foundation that you can move forward on with health and fitness. All right. So first off, I'm going to start with my testimony. And my testimony has a lot of aspects to it. It's really cool. I'm really thankful for that. I mean, all glory to God, of course. But I'm going to kind of rush through most of it, okay? And I believe those other aspects are for another time. But tonight I just want to camp out on the main part of it, okay? That I attest to tonight. So I grew up with my mom and my dad, and I had my brother and my 2 sisters. And my mom and my dad, of course, and my mom, she didn't necessarily know how to love me, And so you can imagine, like, all the difficulties that came along with that as a child. And then my dad, he was an alcoholic, so he wasn't around a lot, or he was working a lot. And my parents had a broken marriage. They both grew up with really hard lives themselves. And so you can imagine some of the result of that for kids and a broken home. But despite growing up in a broken home, my mom still brought me to church. She brought us to church. And God still was reaching out for me, And so I'm so thankful for that, because at age 7, I gave my heart to God. I knew that he was calling me, and I knew that he was there for me, and I chose to follow Christ. And so from like age 7 to 13, God was my everything. He was my comfort in everything. It was the most pure faith that I could ever remember. And the best way I know how to describe it is, like, I share a room with my sister upstairs, and we like wrote all over the walls. Like, so our personalities were reflected on the walls. And I had went into a magazine, and there was like a yellow banana and a green banana. And I don't know why or what, it was probably advertising bananas, but I cut them out and I taped them on the wall. And I wrote these exact words. I can picture it to this day. My brother's probably laughing. And it said to the green banana, "This is me." And then it pointed to the yellow banana. It says, "But Jesus shines much brighter." But that just summarizes like where my heart was at. That it didn't matter what was going on around me. It didn't matter the brokenness that I didn't even understand at the time, because I knew who God was, and I knew that he had called me, and I went to him for all the pain and the discomfort in my life. But then around age 13, I started to get a little bit distracted. I started going to public school. I was homeschooled prior to that. And there's nothing wrong with public school, but it just kind of opened up a can of worms for me of things that would distract me from the Lord. And I dabbled in a little bit with like the self-harm. I did the whole like, I got my thumbs through the sleeves. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah, because it was a cool thing to do, but really I was just like hiding marks on my arms. It was the people I was hanging around. Started to get involved with boys and relationships that I shouldn't be in. And then I started to drink. This is going through high school. I started partying, started coming on the scene. And then by the time I got into college, I was drunk, very drunk, 4 to 5 nights out of the week. And I bartended most of the time too, so that added to that. And it got so bad, you guys. Like I remember one time, I was 19, I lived down in Madison, and I just bought a brand new car. I mean, like brand new. I don't know why they would let me do that, but I had negative equity on the loan too. I owed on the car I already had. And so this loan was huge, and I just bought it, and I was partying in Madison, decided to drive home at bar close. And this is one of many times that I crashed a vehicle. But the worst part, I was driving, and I hit something. I don't know what happened. I probably passed out. And so I pulled over on the side of the street, woke up, I had a flat tire because of whatever I hit. So I called my roommates at the time, and they talked me through how to change my tire. And, I'm this drunk, crazy mess, and somehow I was able to do it, But it didn't help me because I got back in the car, and 5 miles down the road, with my cruise set at 80 miles per hour, I hit a cement barricade straight on. And so absolutely totaled the vehicle. But I walked away completely unharmed. My loan got completely wiped out. The cops didn't test me for a DUI. I mean, I'm downtown Madison. You could tell I was out partying. And I got away with it. And you would have thought that I would have recognized the grace of God in my life at that moment, but I didn't. I just continued in my ways. I continued that lifestyle until I moved back up north. And so you guys can see that it went from God being my comfort to self-harm and boys and drinking and partying and all the insane things that come with that. Like my anger was out of control. I remember thinking I wish I lived in a house that I hadn't punched something or broken something, because everywhere I looked, I destroyed something or punched someone. So I had all these things that I was turning to. Then when I moved up north, we're getting there, guys. I started dating somebody that was bodybuilding. And so here I went to a show with them, and I saw these girls up on stage, and I was in the military at this time. I didn't mention that earlier. I'm in the military. And so I was in the military, I was in shape, I had to be active a lot. But I saw these people on stage, and I was like, man, if I just straighten up a few things, I could compete like that, and I could be really successful in this. Which, in a way, was probably a blessing, because it got me away from my partying and drinking and driving drunk. So at that time, it was a good thing. It brought me from that. But then I just went into the next thing for comfort. Now my idols are the gym. My comfort was the gym. My comfort was the people around me that I interacted with that were obsessed with bodybuilding and their images. And so now that was what was going on. And I was really successful in it. So not only that, but the community started to see me successful in it. The town of Rice Lake, I was involved in every community event of fitness. I was probably the only trainer around at that time. I don't know of a lot of others. I trained out of all the gyms in Rice Lake. They all advertised me. I had sponsors for bike rides that I would do. I taught group classes. I remember at one point I had over 100 clients that I was working with, rather with nutrition coaching or bodybuilding, whatever I was training. I was working with that many people at once because everybody saw me as the fitness professional. But behind all of that, I had a really bad secret. So, sorry. I was hoping that all week long getting my tears out would have helped. But so I remember the first time that it happened. It was the 4th of July, and I was training for a competition, and again, this fitness, whatever, for the community. And they had this huge food spread out, and I was so restricted on my calories because I was competing. And I, of course, took it to another level always. Even though I probably could have ate this much, I wanted to be the best, so I would always restrict even further, which restricting your calories is another issue in itself, right? And so here I was restricting, saw this big food spread, and I remember telling myself that I can have a cheat meal. It's no big deal. But I remember when I said, and a cheat meal in itself is bogus, right? We don't need to have a cheat meal, just eat a balanced diet. But I remember telling myself, I can just have a cheat meal. It's no big deal, one meal, and knowing full well, deep inside, that I wasn't going to keep that meal down, And so I did it. I consumed it. And everybody saw me being flexible and having fun. But deep inside, it was struggling. It was tearing me apart. It was all I could think about, and I was obsessed with it. I wasn't obsessed with the throwing up, but I was obsessed with what comfort I found in just eating food obsessively. You know what I mean? And plus, I was restricting, so I was starving. So then it made it worse when I did go to eat. You know, it was just like, whoa. So all it did was transfer me finding comfort in the gym to now binging and purging. And it was out of control. What I was doing wasn't working anymore. I remember having to wear more makeup than I even wanted to because I had to hide the strain on my face from throwing up so much. Because it started 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 7 days a week, multiple times a day of the week, multiple times of the day. I mean, it was so out of hand. I knew what foods I could eat that I could throw up the easiest. I learned that because I did it so often. I knew what foods were difficult to throw up and that would hurt me the most. I remember having to go to Marketplace in Rice Lake late at night because I didn't want anybody to see me buy the junk that I was going to consume. Even though I knew and I spent a lot of money. I wasted a lot of money on buying food that I only had intentions to eat and throw up. And so I would go to the store at like 9 o'clock at night. And I remember I would just kind of sneak around. And if I saw someone I knew, I would like avoid that. And then if I did run into someone and they asked me like, oh, wow, you don't eat that stuff. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. I have a birthday party tomorrow, or I'm buying this for a gift, or, I would lie because I couldn't dare be caught with that. I'd be ruined. So I thought. So this went on heavily for about 6 years. And I was getting pretty desperate. I want you guys to go to Deuteronomy 8, verses 1 through 16. And I might skip around, so just try to follow. I'll tell you what verse I'm on, but it says in verse 1, be careful to follow every command I am giving you today, so that you may live and increase and may enter and possess the land that the Lord promised on oath to your forefathers. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the desert these 40 years, to humble you and to test you, in order that you know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger, and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your fathers had known, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Your clothes did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during those 40 years. I know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord God disciplines you. Observe the commands of the Lord your God, walking in his ways and revering him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams and pools of water, with springs flowing in the valleys and hills, a land with wheat and barley, vines and fig trees, pomegranates, olive oil, and honey, a land where bread will not be scarce and you will lack nothing, a land where the rocks are iron and you can dig copper out of the hills. When you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe the commands, his laws, and his decrees that I am giving to you this day. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I'm going to stop there, I think, but the Lord showed that to me when I was thinking about my testimony. And it was just so spot on because God brought me out of my Egypt when I was a little kid, when I was 7 years old. God brought me out of that Egypt. And he provided the manna that I needed every single day from him. He gave that to me. And then I started to have idols, just like the guys when Moses went up the mountain and they came back down and they had idols there and they forgot who God was and they forgot his commands. That's exactly what I did. And I started to turn to other things. I forgot that the Lord had a paradise waiting for me. I forgot that he was providing that for me. Basically, I sacrificed his paradise, his promised land, for my preferences. So let me tell you guys why it's important that we know God's design for health and fitness, okay? Because you guys know Pastor Jake Lazar, a lot of you guys do. So Pastor Jake worked out at Snap Fitness. And that's the first encounter that I had with someone from World Harvest Church. And he started talking to me, and he started praying for me, and he started inviting me to cell groups and started speaking to me. And so that's when my life started to slowly turn around. I still struggled with the eating disorder for a while, but I began going to church a little bit. God started refining other areas of my life and delivering me from anger and depression and loss and all the other things. And I was still struggling a little bit, but that was the beginning of it. And so, but he knew the disciplines with physical exercise and nutrition, and he still does. And he's a huge inspiration for me in that area. And so it's important. That's why it's important, because there's a whole demographic of people, you guys, that are out on the hiking trails that need to be reached by God. You know, they love creation, they love the world, they're actually pretty happy, but there's no one out there to tell them the good news, right? So here I am, changing my life around, but I'm still struggling with this eating disorder. And it's getting better, but I'm like, God, this is my life. It's my hobbies, it's my career, it's how everybody knows me, it was my identity. And I remember listening to like a pastor once, because I was desperate, I was like looking up all these things, like how can I fix this? How can I da-da-da? Who's had a testimony of this? Like I wanted to know everything. I wanted to find the person that was like, this is exactly what you do, and I wanted to do that and be set free. But it just wasn't that easy for me. And I remember a pastor, she said, I struggled with an eating disorder. I'm sure it was more elaborate than this, but she said, and then I prayed about it and I gave it to God, and the next day I was set free. And I remember just being desperate and thinking, Lord, I want that to be me so bad. I want that so badly. But God couldn't take that away from me. I mean, he wanted to, but because if he would have just taken that away from me and I hadn't placed it in his hands, if I hadn't given up those idols to him, I would have just turned to the next idol. So in Matthew 6:33, it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. So I started to take that seriously. It took years, but I started to seek God in every area of my life. I started to hand him my business, my career, my identity, and fitness. I actually had a lot of injuries that kind of helped bring me away from that too, but I had to start seeking the Lord. I had to lay down those lies. And I had to lay down the lies that I was telling my clients, to be honest. As I started to change, it was harder and harder for me to coach other people because I knew that their roots were sitting in loose soil. And if they didn't know the Lord, I would try to poke it in there, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? I knew that they needed a revelation from God of how to eat and how to move their bodies. Otherwise, I was just feeding them the same lies. I remember I had clients that had eating disorders that were competitors. I would train them for a show, and I knew that they were struggling with an eating disorder, and I'd still let them compete, because it was the world. So anyways, so that's what brings me here today, because over the last few years of me not working the business, of letting God redesign what that looks like to help people in this area, it's brought me here. He's been able to reveal revelations to me. I've been able to know his heart on this, and there's so much more to learn, and I'm so excited. And so that's why we're here today. We're going to go through some points now. And the first one is God's design and what he intended. So if you guys want to go to Genesis 1:11. It says, then God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it according to their various kinds. And the word seed in Hebrew is, I'll probably pronounce it incorrectly, but it's zera. And that actually means of like kind, offspring. So that's what it means in Hebrew. Of like kind, producing of like kind, and offspring. And it's no coincidence at all. This is where I start to geek out. Like I try to study, in Genesis and stuff. I'm trying to go through everything God has to say about any food. But it's like God used the same word seed, offspring of like kind, when he talks about the seed of Adam that is eventually pointing to Jesus. And to some of you that maybe that's obvious, I don't know. But to me that's so cool. Like he could have used anything. He could have designed an apple to just like fall out of the sky. I don't know. Like he could have done that. We only know fruit and vegetables because of seeds, because that's what we know. But God chose that for a reason, that it would come from a seed. And just like Adam, Jesus would come from that seed. And so I just think that that's absolutely amazing that in the very first chapter of the Bible, it was pointing to Jesus with even our food. And I'm not comparing food to Jesus at all. Absolutely not. But it's just so cool that even our food points to Jesus from the beginning. And it's kind of crazy that if you think, I always use apple, but like, we wouldn't have apples today if there wasn't an apple in the Garden of Eden. So we're literally eating fruit from the Garden of Eden. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's crazy. But, and that I don't just mean fruit and vegetables either. That goes into like the animals that he provided for us. They have a seed inside them that continues to produce. So meat is included. Don't get me wrong. Something that people have said to me before is like that it can be hard to eat well. It can be hard to get access to the foods that you want because we live in a fallen world. And people have said that. Maybe not even in those exact words, but that's kind of what they're meaning. And I have heard those words. But it's true. It's true that we do live in a fallen world. But just like they might not have had like processed food in the Garden of Eden, but they also didn't have pornography in the Garden of Eden. They didn't have social media. And so all the sins, sin of gluttony, addictions, all those things, they still fall under the same fruit of the spirit of self-control. And so I don't want us to use the excuse that it's hard to access good food. Access good food. Because it is sometimes, but it's not a reason to not be in obedience to Christ. Okay. So that's just a little taste of where God started. Where I believe he started. So the next point, we're not going to look at food as good or bad anymore. First off, when I hear, especially coming from the bodybuilding world and the world of any type of eating disorder, or just even healthy, I remember like Matt, he looks like the bill of health, and I'm so thankful for that. But when we got married, he didn't eat healthy at all, and he looked the exact same, right? Like he didn't exercise at all, and he looked the exact same, which is really cool. But it doesn't mean he's healthy. So I remember, now I get married into this family, and I hear like his mom always saying like, "Oh, well, Matt's always," I don't know, just a compliment. She's sweet, but a lot of times we don't relate like health to like, you have to, if you look healthy, you are healthy. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. But internally you might not be. Okay. And so he ate really bad. I kind of lost where I was going with that point, but that's an important point though in itself, that like, just because you look healthy doesn't mean that you're healthy internally. Okay. And so if you're sitting here tonight, like, I've never had an eating disorder, or I have no problem stopping eating, I can eat as much as I want. Like, good. Like, that's great. But it doesn't mean you're healthy. Okay. So this applies to you too. But anyways, when you start and you think and you hear like, "Oh, that's bad," or "I know I had a cookie, I know that's bad," that's what people always say to me, and I'm like, I don't care that you had a cookie, it's not bad. But what it does is it creates guilt and shame right away. You put that on yourself when you think of it that way. So it might be just a word, but it's not. Stop using that this food is bad. Okay? So here's a few ways that you can look at how food is, and how you can start moving forward from this day, purchasing your food, consuming your food, okay? So processed versus unprocessed. So did God make it, or did man make it? That's the easiest way to summarize processed food. Did God make it, or did man make it? I used to always say, like, could you pull it out of the ground, pick it off a tree, shoot it and eat it, then you're good. So whatever you need to remind yourself, real whole ingredients. Okay, real whole ingredients. Because God still created Marianne, and maybe she invented an amazing beef jerky with real whole ingredients, but it still went through a process, right? So there are some processed foods, but look for those real whole ingredients when you are eating processed food, okay? As close, and then as far as like, I might eat broccoli, but maybe it was steamed really, really a lot. And so steamed all the nutrients out, right? And then I covered it in cheese, or it came in a package, you know, and so it has some preservatives, like a lot of whatever additives into it. And so maybe still a better choice than some things, but as close to a natural source of a food that you can eat it, the healthier it's going to be for you. And sometimes people say like, oh, you know, but I can't eat broccoli, or I don't like green vegetables, or you know, at all. And just so you guys know, green vegetables have the most nutrients in them for you, okay? But I hear that a lot. And the way that I like to think of that, you guys, the Lord gave me this, is like a lot of us tainted our marriages before we were married, right? We lived in relationships maybe that we shouldn't have. I did. And I tainted what God designed for marriage, okay? So when he started to save me and change my life, and then I married this amazing godly man, God was able to heal that, restore that, redeem that, and I was able to go and walk in the design of marriage. But prior to that, it was tainted. You know, my preferences. And it's the same with food. A lot of your taste buds, and I know that's a tough comparison, but it's the truth. Like a lot of your taste buds are tainted, okay, because they've been eating false gods, right? Okay, so they've been eating foods that you're not meant to consume, that are stuffed with chemicals meant to like warp your brain into thinking it's giving you nutrients. It's pretty wild. So just be patient with yourself. Give yourself time. Let God redeem your taste buds, okay? Let him restore how you view food, how you consume food, how food tastes you, and just be patient with yourself. The first time you go to eat broccoli, you're probably going to be bloated, just more fiber than you're used to. And not everybody, this is just an example, right? But it's going to be a lot. You know, it might not taste amazing. Give yourself time. Be patient with yourself, okay? Because it's going to be that way. But God has a design with it. He can restore that. It's not just your preferences, okay? Those can be redeemed and restored. Okay, another way to look at it, either processed versus unprocessed, is nutrients versus no nutrients. That's like probably my favorite one. Especially if you did ever struggle with kind of overeating, you're probably eating a lot of empty calories like I was. Like I would just mouth out, you know, it's so easy to mouth out a bag of chips that had zero nutrients for me. And so starting to focus on that and actually feeding my body was super important. And how the Lord gave me this on that, you guys know Judas, right? He betrayed Jesus. He sat and ate with Jesus at the Last Supper, but he was still starved of the bread of life. So he was consuming and consuming, but he was still starving. So we can eat a lot of calories. Like people say, I'm not losing any weight, and I've only been eating this much, or I've been eating all these, you know, all this. But it's like we can consume a lot of calories and zero nutrients, and what that does is it still starves our bodies. So it messes with your hormones, it messes with your mind, and it's really hard to regulate. It's really hard for your body to lose weight and give up that weight if you're trying to do that, or put on muscle, because it's starving of nutrients. If you aren't consuming food for fuel and for nutrients, it's an idol in your life. I'm not saying like every single thing. Like in Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time and a place for everything. But if donuts are infiltrating every aspect of your life, that's wrong. Because Judas was around Jesus, the bread of life, but he was around him to feed his love of the idol of money. So point number 3. Quit looking to the world. Let's go to Romans 12:2. It says, do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So we're all here tonight so that we quit conforming to the patterns of the world with health and fitness, because we want to seek out his will. Can you imagine if I looked to the world for how my marriage should look? We'd be divorced. We'd be, or cheating on, I don't even know. It'd be insane. It'd be chaos. And it's not just like the advice. It's every show. It's every, I don't know. I'm not on TV or social media that much, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere. We all know this. You know, we would be divorced. It would be a terrible marriage. It'd be so sad. But we do that with our nutrition, with our movement. It's like the first thing we go through, like jump on Google and find the latest thing, and we go to the latest gym and see what they're doing and what the world has been telling and teaching them. And don't get me wrong, there's good advice, some good advice out there. But we go to the world, we look to the world in this area instead of the first thing that we should do is be on our knees saying, God, what is your plan for this? What is your design for this? It's all that I want. I want to be in alignment with this area, and I submit it before you, and I'm here to do that, and that's what I'm seeking. We're seeking his will for nutrition and movement in the world. I think it's in Romans 6. You don't have to go there, but it says that God credited Abraham's faith as righteousness. I got to make sure I said that correctly. Yeah, he credited his faith as righteousness. But they said, why did he count it as righteousness? Not, he said they credited his faith as righteousness, but why? Because he believed God. He believed God had a way to do it. And so if we want our nutrition and fitness to line up with God, we have to believe that he can do it, and then it becomes in his plan, in his holiness, in his righteousness. You guys remember in 2020, and when we had the vaccine was the big thing? So like, whether you got it or not, that's not in my business, and that's everybody's individual decision. But as I told you, I'm in the military, and so it was forced vaccination was the thing. And we were about to mold to Fort McCoy of all places we were supposed to go for a year. So they're like, hey, you're leaving in 3 weeks. By the way, get this vaccine or you can't go. And I was in a decent leadership position, not that I'm in now, but I was like, I didn't want to leave my guys, but I wanted to go with them, but I was like, I can't get this vaccine. I don't know what to do. I remember calling Pastor Shaw in tears because it was like, get it now, but I knew that the Holy Spirit was telling me not to get it. So if I would have just thought that on my own and just wanted to put up a fight against it, that would have been me doing it the way that the world does it, right? So it wasn't righteous. It wouldn't have been holy. But I knew that the Holy Spirit was telling me not to get it. So I put it in his hands. I believed that God could do it, and he was able to count it as righteousness. And through this, like I remember my commander, because he had to go through the whole process with me, and he started talking about his faith with me. Remember, he started telling me that he was saved through this process. I was one out of I don't remember, I should have looked at the facts, but it was like one of, I don't even know, thousands and thousands and thousands that got approved. And I remember I had to go submit this letter and references from my pastor saying, attesting to my faith in Christ. And I had to meet with the colonel. They let me deploy, so this is all during the deployment. And that was a testimony in itself. That was a fight. But I remember I had to meet this colonel, and he was like, okay, I understand the blood of aborted fetuses. He's like, I see that. A lot of people talk about that. He's like, but that's not enough ground to stand on. So I need you to, the way he was saying it was like, you need to prove your faith, basically. You need to give me a solid reason beyond that, because that's not a reason not to get a vaccine. I'm not going to prove that. And I remember I had nothing. I was like, literally, all I have, I said, do you know who the Holy Spirit is? I said, that's what I had. That's all I had. I had to be obedient, and I had to trust that God could do it, because I had nothing else, and he did it. And I'm still in, obviously, till this day, and I never got the vaccine. And people have all heard about Christ all over, up to thousands of levels, all over the U.S. This thing went through. It was pretty diets. And I used to teach group classes, and I'd have this one lady, and she was wonderful. And I would get done explaining like the entire workout, the whole thing. You probably remember this, Pastor Shar. And she'd go, what's the wrong way to do it? And she talks like that. She's the sweetest lady, you know. And I would say, Paula, you know, don't focus on the wrong way. I'm not showing you that. You'll forget, you know, or like, that's not the focus. Focus on what I just told you to do and you'll be just fine. You know, it was so funny. And so I could spend all night, honestly debunking diets. Like I really could, and I would love to in a lot of ways. But we're not gonna do that because I want you guys to just focus on the things I am saying and what I do believe God is saying. And I pray that that's enough tonight, you know? And so, but with that said, all diets, tips, tricks, supplements, medicine, there is a place for them, okay? But they should always come secondary to submitting your health and fitness to God, okay? And moving and disciplining your body, and we'll kind of get more into that. It's always secondary, okay? Like I don't take any supplements, and there might be a need for them one day, I don't know. But if there is, I'm gonna say, oh, what can I get out of my nutrients, out of my nutrition? What can I eat to get more of that first? I'm gonna start there. Then if I'm still feeling the issues that I have, then maybe I'll look into supplementing, okay? Like actually my bone wasn't healing, and I wasn't consuming enough vitamin D. And Matt and I, so we're like, oh no. So we did all the eggs, all the fish. There's very limited vitamin D sources besides the sun. It's like fish, eggs, I don't even know, that's it. Literally, it's like 4 things, mushrooms. And I was eating as much of them as I can, and like your bone's not healing, your vitamin D levels aren't going up. And so then I supplemented. But I started with the nutrition first, and I kept the nutrition part going, okay? But I will say this about diets. If they focus on what you can't consume, if they're telling you only things you consume, a lot of only eat this, only eat this. If they're restrictive, if they're isolating, if you can't go to a birthday party and enjoy yourself with the food that they have out there with balance, of course, if they isolate you from your family, from events, from feeling like you can participate in things, that's not okay. If they're unrealistic, if they're extreme, if they're focused on supplements, like you have to buy this to be successful, or this is what you're gonna invest your money in. If they're quick fixes, don't do them. Okay, I will say that about diets. I just want to mention something really quick about fasting. I couldn't do a whole point on this because I don't know enough about fasting, and I'm excited to learn. But I do know that God calls us to fast, and I do know that that is holy, like that is righteous. And I'm growing into being able to fast without having kind of triggers of like eating problems. So if you've had that, I get it. But what I do want to say about fasting is that we do fast to draw closer to God, right? That's the whole purpose of fasting, is to draw near to his heart, draw near to what he's saying, draw near to his plans and what he's speaking. But if you can't repent of your issues with food to draw closer to God, you shouldn't be fasting to draw closer to God. And I know that's big, but it is. It is.
Say that again.
If you can't repent of your issues with food that you know God is convicting you on to draw closer to him, you shouldn't be choosing to fast to be closer to him. We're called to live a life of repentance.
That's good.
And now you're just treating fasting like an extreme diet.
Oof, that's so good.
I've been there, you guys, where like, we got a 3-day fast coming up, and I'm like, sweet, I've been feeling a little bloated lately.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I'm gonna get figured out here.
Yeah.
You know, and that shouldn't be my first thought.
Yeah.
Or it might be, but I take it captive now,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Wow, that's good word.
All right. Point 5, you guys. Eat according to your activity levels. So I always use running examples because I like running, but I'm not promoting running, okay? If you like running, run. But if you don't like running, you do not have to run, okay?
Woo.
I promise you that. It is not even a good way to stay in shape. I mean, cardiovascularly, but your body, we don't need to get into it. We like running, we're runners, that's okay. But I just use a lot of examples of that, okay? So if I'm about to go run a marathon tomorrow, I better be consuming a lot of calories before that, right? Because I'm gonna be putting out a lot of energy, so I'm gonna need a lot of energy in my body to be able to consume, to provide that, to get through the run. But if tomorrow I'm just mowing the lawn and it's a rider, I'm not a push and a movie night in the evening, I probably don't need a lot of calories. Like I need enough to sustain and to feel well, and I need to focus on nutrients, like providing that for my body. But I don't need a lot of extra energy going in because I'm not gonna burn it off. But I feel like we do the opposite of that. We do. It's like, oh, it's Sunday, I'm gonna sleep in, and then we're gonna have a big pancake breakfast because that sounds just really fun and nice, and it is, you know. And then we're gonna sit around because it's raining outside, so we're gonna watch movies all day, and we're gonna snack on chips all day and eat candy because it's fun, you know, and it's easy to do. And I'm bored also, so every however long, I'm like, I think I need another snack, you know. And Matt's favorite words, he's used to hearing those a lot from me, so. But that's what we do. We consume a lot on the days we're doing the least, but then you're go to work and you're super busy and you had to get the kids off to school, so you forgot to eat breakfast because you didn't have time, and then you forgot to pack your lunch, so then you kind of starved all day, and then you got home and maybe a little bit and then got off to bed. And that was your busiest day. You were moving a ton and you hardly consumed anything.
Yeah.
So we do the opposite. And how I think of this one, you guys, and it's a hearty example, that's the best way to describe it, but it works for me. And God's gonna reveal things to each one of you that works for you to remind you of these points, you know? But for me, it's like, when I am about to go to drill or any army time, man, if I am not prayed up, if I'm not walking in my identity, like say I had a really busy week and I just didn't have a lot of time with the Lord, all these excuses, whatever, right? It happens, you know? Like obviously God's still there with me. Like he still loves me, like I'm not doubting that, but I'm going in empty, right? So I show up at drill empty. You can ask Matt. I will come home from drill and I will spend hours sometimes crying. Not because I didn't, like God just stopped loving me, or not because he wasn't there for me, but I saw the opportunities I missed. I saw the moment when I was too tired to share, I was too empty to care, I wasn't patient, I wasn't myself because I wasn't fueled up. I hadn't had my time with God, you know, and he's still there, there's still grace on that, don't get me wrong. It's not like a condemnation thing, it was just like I know that where God could have used me, where I wasn't in alignment. So that's my example to remember how I need to feel better for things. Back when I had the eating disorder, or even all my crazy activities, I remember I'd go run a marathon and I don't even know if I ate breakfast that morning. Like, yeah, it was so destructive to my body. Like guys said, it's damaging to your hormones, it's damaging to your stress levels, your body. It takes, even running a marathon with healthy fuel, it takes time, or fasting, it takes time for your body to regulate after that, let alone if you're starving it before and after. So we need to fuel our bodies for our activity levels. I like this one too because in our day, like, okay, so back in the Garden of Eden, like that's where it gets fun in Genesis too. Like he talks about cultivating the land. You know, like he put him in the garden and it talks about how it was joyous. Like it's been a while since I've like went through the Hebrew of it, but it was like joyful. Like it was meant to be a pleasurable thing for them to garden and till and cultivate the land and take care of the animals. Like it was joyful. And now, you know, we have bugs and pestilence and the ground's this and all these, you know, whatever things. And but that was what he intended, and they stayed healthy and they had healthy movement in that cultivation, in that discipline. There was benefits for their bodies physically, right? And even back, if you think probably to the early 1900s, like people were walking to school, they were walking to church, they were walking to work, they were working all day, they had to work to eat. They, you know, they probably didn't view it as work, but everything they did, they had to cultivate. There was a discipline in that. So they were part of that like original design, I like to call it. You know, but now obviously the world progressed and there's benefits to that. But I don't want to tell you guys how to go to gym membership. Like that's not even realistic. And I don't even have a gym membership. Like just move your bodies. And so back to the activity level thing, some of you guys maybe work construction. Like I used to work at the union, and so I'd swing them all at block walls for 8 hours a day. I was absolutely spent with every single muscle in my body possible. Like it was so bad. In a good way though, in some ways. I was exhausted. I worked every single muscle and I had plenty of physical training. So no way Was I getting down to work and thinking, oh, I need to go for a walk, or you know what I mean? Like I didn't need to do that. I was moving my body. I was part of that more natural design, if you want to say. So there's ways to like cultivate movement that doesn't have to look like being like in the gym all the time, or that stereotypical way, or the way that the world is telling you to do it. Whatever it's going to look like for you, that's great. Maybe you've been wanting to garden. That's an amazing way to move your body for 4 months out of the year at least, you know. But then on the other hand, if you have an office job and you sit at a desk all day, you need to get creative. You know, you don't have to get a gym membership. And if you do, if the gym's your choice, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's a great place to share the gospel. And but you just need to get creative in what's going to work for you to move your body. And you're gonna be tired, but you're more tired when you're not moving your body. Trust me. Okay, so even I want to tell you guys, like when I was recovering from all my surgeries, all I started doing to like regulate my sleep and my weight was I just started walking to work. And it was 1 mile at that time. It was 1 mile. And everything started to fall into alignment. All I did was briskly, you know, intentional. I like to say intentional because sometimes I go on a walk with friends or, you know, just whatever, pretty casual. But I was intentional about it. That's all that I started to change. So if you want to see changes in your body, like obviously we go a lot of things, but just start walking. If that's all that you need to do, just start walking. That's where you can start. It's wondrous. Okay, so that's gonna bring me into kind of my last point, which is gonna kind of do like a rapid, like all these little plugs that I had nowhere else to put, okay? So, all right, so be present. So, again, I know not everybody struggles with an eating disorder, but I think these are tools to come into alignment with God regardless with how you eat. 100%. And it's gonna sound really, really simple. But I am telling you, like I was crying telling Matt earlier, I'm like, this is all I did. This is all I did. This is all I've done to change my heart with God towards health and fitness and when I eat, okay? So be thankful. I know Pastor Char always says, you can't complain. I think, is that it? You can't complain and be thankful at the same time. Like that's really impossible to do. It's really hard to overeat or undereat or be obsessed with your food when you're thankful for it. You know, it brings attention off of you, which is the plan of the enemy anyways. It brings attention off of you and onto God.
That's good.
So when you're sitting down to eat, whether alone, with people, no matter what, be thankful. Don't rush it. Bring the Lord into it. Next is to hydrate. Most people think they're hungry and they're just thirsty. I know that sounds silly. A lot of people are actually under eating as well, but hydrate your bodies. You need more water than you think that you do. You can't drink too much water. I mean, I always remember when I would say that, and someone, you know, in the back was, oh, if you drink like 5 gallons, you know, I'm like, okay, no one's drinking 5 gallons, you know, I'm not gonna, yeah. All right, so anyways, hydrate. So hydrate throughout the day, all the time. If you're already thirsty, you're already dehydrated, okay? So like I like to wake up and I drink like this amount or double. You don't have to go to that, but just start with 8 ounces or 10 ounces right when you wake up. Before you have your coffee is a really good rule. If you're a coffee drinker, drink some water first. Get everything moving, fires up your digestion. And then hydration plays a role into when you eat as well. So like again, if you're thirsty, you're hungry. So if you're drinking something before a meal, like I'll try to drink a little bit of water right before I eat to help my body regulate how much food I actually need to consume. So like as you're chewing your food, did you guys know that your brain is sending signals to your stomach to tell you how much enzymes to produce to digest your food? But if you're eating too quickly, you're just swallowing it, your body, your brain can't like figure out how much you're consuming. So then it doesn't produce the proper amount of enzymes, and then you're all like stuck up, right? Yeah. Not only that, but as you chew your food, your body is calculating how much food is going in as well. So it's like, it's helping you know like how full you are. So if I just swallow my food really quickly, and I ate a ton, And then 10 minutes later, all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow. That means you ate your food too fast. That your body didn't have time to regulate and calculate how much you were consuming. If it would have had time, if you would have chewed slowly and well and started to swallow it slowly, then your body's like, oh, keeping up. It's like, oh, a little bit more, okay, I'm done. And it'll send the signals in the right amount of time before you overeat. So be thankful, hydrate, focus on nutrients. If I'm about to eat dinner and I have broccoli and I have a pork chop and I have French fries, let's just say, that's great. I'm gonna have some French fries. I like French fries, right? But I'm gonna focus on consuming my nutrients first. Okay, so I know I need protein. I know that I need the nutrients in the broccoli. I know I need a little bit of the fat. And so it doesn't mean I'm not gonna have fries, but if I start eating the fries first, like pretty addictive, it's pretty easy to eat a lot of fries fast. And I'm gonna fill up on that before my body gets the nutrients that it actually needs. Because it doesn't just need calories, it needs nutrients. So when you do sit down to eat, or when you're choosing what to eat, think about nutrients first. Have a little bit of what you want, but focus on the nutrients. Slow down. I kind of went into that one with the hydration. Slow down, chew your food, let your body process how much you're consuming. And then be present. So especially like my eating disorder, that was really hard because I would get to an event and all I could think about was the food over there. Like when are we gonna get to the food, and stressed about what I was gonna do with it afterward. Am I gonna be able to keep it down? Or I'll just eat a little bit. It was just like this constant like mental battle. And I was sick of it. Like I just want to get rid of it, and now it's not there anymore, thank the Lord. But I had to be present. Like we eat well, we want to eat well, we want to move well so that we can minister well. All of this is for God. All of this has to point to Jesus. All of this is so that we're in alignment with Him, so that we can reach others. Yeah. So we're not focused on our injuries. So we're not focused on our food. We're not focused on the idols that are tempting us around us. We're focused on God. So I had to be present. So I had to ignore the food. I started focusing on, hey, I'm going to dinner with my brother and his wife, and I'm focused on them and their kids and what they have to say and how their week was, and I care about them. Because it takes the attention off me and my idols, my struggles, and it puts it on God and what He would want them to hear and how He would want me to treat them. Yeah. So be present with the people. When you sit down, take time, ask them questions, and all of a sudden you'll just be like, wow, food's not even on my mind anymore. Or I ate as I talked slowly, naturally, and now I'm satisfied. And the meal's over. And I didn't even get consumed by it, So be present. This one's big for moms, okay? So moms would always say, like, well, what are my clients, like, what are my kids supposed to eat if I'm eating this? And I'm like, exactly what you're eating, and it's like, in 10 years, whatever year, they're going to be in the same position wondering how they come into alignment with their food with Christ. So they need to eat the same things that you're eating. And again, think back to like that being patient. If they're eating a lot of processed foods, that's what they're used to. It's going to take time, for their taste buds to change a little bit, for their preferences to change. But make them present with you, present in the cultivation of cooking food. Bring them into that with you, and they'll start to get excited about. They'll start to like those foods. Their preferences will change. And that goes for dads too, because I've heard it in that sense too, like husbands. What does my husband eat? I'm like, oh, he can figure it out. No. I have Matt cooks everything, so I'm the last person to say that. He's the cook. And then we're gonna go into some buzzwords. Okay, snacks. Do you think that they were pulling out snacks back in the 1800s? Like, you want a snack, and you think it was like this sugary little handful of something? Like a snack. Like, snacks are a marketing thing. That's from the world. I'm not saying never have a snack, but your snacks should just be smaller versions of real whole foods. Yeah. Okay? Like, I always joke that I'll carry a chicken breast around in my pocket, and I've done it. And I'd rather, because I want to snack on that, I'd rather snack on that than some of the options that I know are going to be somewhere. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that. You get creative. But snacks are just something of the world, okay? Think differently about what a snack is. Snacks are now just treats, and it shouldn't be that way. Mm-hmm. Gluten-free, organic, what's some of the other ones out there? Let me see. I'm so far away from them now, I don't even know, but they're all buzzwords, you guys. Yeah, keto, I mean, that's that, yeah, just like all these things. So you read, oh, gluten-free, perfect. It's like already a naturally gluten-free food, and they're like, gluten-free, try this. Even the organic, like if you actually look up the organic foods, a lot of them, the processing that they go through, like it's not even any healthier. The stuff they use is just, it's kind of crazy. And I still choose organic sometimes, but true organic, you guys, is local growing. That is the true definition of organic. It's you can buy it here, the grower. That's what organic means. So just because it says that in the store doesn't mean that's the reality of it, okay? Mm-hmm. So if you choose to do that, that's great. But just don't get stuck on that like, okay? So buzzwords, watch those. And when you guys are thinking about, okay, I'm eating real whole foods, I'm doing really good, but I kind of want to have pizza on Saturday. That's okay. Like you guys can do that. It's like an easy rule of thumb. It's like 80-20, 80-20. So like you guys have either all probably mowed lawn or used a tiller or something here, right? And when you're going on and you're mowing just fine, and then you get to a really wet area, and it's like you can go over like a 10-foot area of wet. It kind of goes through. You hear it bog down a little bit, right? But when you get to like, if you had a whole acre of wet, that thing really bogs down, and probably sometimes they shut off. At least that's happened to me. So like the mower gets bogged out, it can't handle that wet area. That's kind of like if you're eating too much of the processed foods, your system's gonna get really bogged down. You can't throw that out of there, okay? So you need to just watch. Like you can have things, but if you, like I know, I have a birthday party this weekend and I know they're gonna have cake and I would really like a piece of cake. So I probably don't eat ice cream Tuesday, and I probably, you know what I mean? Like I just kind of plan a little ahead. I'm not restricting, I'm just like keeping a good balance, okay? Because I don't wanna get bogged down, I wanna feel good. And I want my system to be able to process that and use that energy, okay? Okay, and the last thought that I have on that is injuries. So many times, like, man, people are like, if I had, but my knee, and I'm not mocking anybody, I'm just trying to think of the things like that, right? I've been there, so it's me too, like my shoulder, my back. Like I herniated a disc in 2016, so bad, I couldn't move my body for like a week at all, like it was terrible. I don't know if you guys remember that, but injuries are gonna happen, aches and pains are going to happen. Like it's normal to have pops and cracks. Like people always say that to me, and I just let them say it. Like someone older, they're like, just you get it, I'm like, yeah, I can do it too, but I'll let you have your moment. You know what I mean? Like it's actually really normal. And so it's still fun to talk about. It's still like, wow, listen to my body now. But just don't use it as a crutch. Don't let it hinder you, because we all have injuries. We all have aches and pains. Like the number one cause of low back pain is weak glutes. Number one cause. I didn't make that number, And so it's like, back pain is real. Do not get me wrong. Like I said, I had a herniated disc, but don't use that as a reason to stop movement, okay? Take the steps, take the discipline, talk to somebody that knows, how to fix that and how to help you, and take those steps. Like say, God, I want to honor you with my body. Lead me to who I need to talk to. I pray over this. I'm coming into alignment with my prayers. I'm taking an action with my prayers and my faith. Like we're going to pray for this. Yes, absolutely. We're going to have faith that God can heal it. But God, I'm also going to be obedient to your commands, because my body is a temple unto the Lord, right?
That's good.
So don't let injuries trip you up. So I think, just in summary, you guys, of those points, then we're gonna just do a quick Q&A. I think we're doing okay, right? Mm-hmm. And then we're gonna pray. But just in a quick summary, lay your nutrition and movement at the feet of Jesus. Mm-hmm. It starts there, it ends there, it's everything. That's what I did to change my outlook, to regulate everything in my body, to get everything under control. Seek God first in this, 100%. Focus on real whole food, unprocessed. Shoot for an 80-20. Be present. And you heard all the things that go along with that. Thankfulness, slowing down, focus on the people around you. Focus on nutrients. Your body needs nutrients, not just calories. Sometimes you're in a hurry and you just get calories. But if you can, reach for the nutrients first so your body's not starving still, okay? Before supplements, medication, choose the Lord, choose to bring your body into alignment, choose to buy the right foods. I used to always hear that, like, you know, healthy foods are more expensive. And I debunked that so many times, you guys. Like, when you actually, like, this is what you're focused on. Yeah, when you go buy a bunch of healthy food plus all the junk food, it does get expensive. But when you're focused on just the real whole foods, they're so much more dense, you know, per amount. It's just unbelievable, not to mention full of nutrients. And another thing that people would say, like, oh, I can get a cheeseburger for $1 and a salad's $8. And I'm like, you're getting what you're paying for. You're getting junk for $1 and you're getting nutrients for $8. Like, you know, so it's like, yes, it is $1 because it's worth $1. And then just get moving, you guys. Like I said, if you start going for a brisk walk every day, I would have all these clients that would come to me and just 0 to 60. I didn't say this, did I already tell this part? Okay. 0 to 60. I mean, 9 times out of 10. And that's part of the reason I had to get away from like the bodybuilding and stuff like that, because they would go from don't work out at all, or maybe it's been 10 years since they've moved their body, even a walk. They'd go from there to maybe eating 1,000 calories a day to, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds. I have a wedding next month and I need to make this happen. And I know that you can make it. And if you tell me anything else besides that happening, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. And so I would give them this as healthy as I could with that quick of a progression. And they just refused to do it because there's no way if they ate that much healthy food that they're going to lose weight. So they would just absolutely 0 to 60. And oh man, I lost my thought with that. Sorry, guys. But don't do that. Don't do the extremes. That's what I was going with. Don't do the extremes. Just start. They couldn't even walk. That's what I say. I would assign them 3 walks a week. 3 walks a week. Let's start there. Okay, let's start there. Then once you're walking, we'll start a little bit of body weight training. And then once you're doing body weight training, we'll go into weights. Like, you need to give your body that time. And they couldn't walk 3 times a week. They couldn't. So discipline starts little, right? It's not the marathon. Like, you can go out and run a marathon. That doesn't take any discipline. It doesn't. It's 4 hours. Go figure it out. 5 hours. Anybody can discipline that if they really wanted to. The discipline is running 3 miles 5 times a week for 4 months. That's discipline. So don't underestimate the little things. Just start moving your body. Okay. So I definitely want to pray for everybody tonight. But I just want to give a little bit of time for if there's any questions on anything that I've talked about, or else too. And if it's a really scientific one, you guys, I don't have a scientific mind. I understand the science of nutrition. I'm certified in all of it, but I'll probably get back to you, to be honest, because science doesn't just sit and hang out in my head. I wish it did.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, like rice and potatoes, because we hear, carbs, you should avoid carbs, right?
Yeah.
Which I hope that you tell us the truth about. And rice and potatoes grow in the ground, right? So
Absolutely.
Those are whole foods.
Yep. And that's how simple I want you to think about it, Pastor Sarah. It grows in the ground, I can eat it. Okay? So don't even think about, can I consume carbs? Does it grow in the ground? You can eat it. Trust me. Like, rice is so good for you. Carbs are so good for you, despite what science has said on and off without actual proper facts throughout the years. Carbs are your primary energy source for your body. And there's times, you guys, where low carbs are okay, and there's medical reasons sometimes for really low carbs. But just like the general person, if you're just trying to eat healthier, there's no reason you need to go on low carbs whatsoever. Okay, unless like a medical doctor is like, hey, yeah, refined sugars, absolutely. They won't tell them to stop eating ketchup with tons of sugar in it, but they'll tell them they shouldn't eat carbs. Because I think people would rather do that. They like the extreme, right? So carbs, very, very necessary. And then, but if you think of it, back to the activity levels, eat according to your activity levels. If you're sitting around all day, focus on vegetable and fruit carbs. Lots of nutrients, right? But you're still getting some carbs, you're still getting some energy source. But maybe you don't need potatoes and oatmeal and whatever that day. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
Okay, you mentioned organic and saying that like it's basically just local, but I mean, for me, I've always thought about organic as grown without a bunch of chemicals and fertilizers and things like that.
Yep.
So I'm confused.
Yeah, it is that when it's locally grown and provided, and it should be that when it's labeled that. The problem is if you really look into like the science behind it and stuff, they have manipulated the food system. You're like, oh, you're going down the rabbit trail here, but so I still buy organic vegetables because there are some things that are still better with their organic process, but they're not that much better. Okay, so the true definition of organic is that you can get it locally. Okay, so if I can get my vegetables here at a farmer's market, woo, that's organic. That's awesome. You know, obviously if they don't use pesticides and things.
Okay.
But so do your best. Again, the world doesn't give us a lot of options there, and they infiltrate into every area and corrupt it, and it's really sad. And so that's where saying, hey, God, I'm trusting you with this. I'm going to do the best that I can, and trusting that he's not going to lead you astray with that.
That's good.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
I recently heard, this is like a real question for me. I recently heard that if you have had any issues with your thyroid, like hypothyroidism or whatever, that broccoli is really bad for you because of something that's in it.
You know, I've never actually heard that, but Dina's shaking her head, and she might be able to answer
I
that.
can't answer because I can't remember what it was, but yeah, there's something that they say supposedly. It's in broccoli.
Like broccoli and cauliflower and all the cruciferous.
I will look that one up. That's a good question.
Thanks, because I really have been avoiding broccoli because I don't
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah, I've never heard that, but there's a lot of other green vegetables that are amazing for you, that are super high in nutrients. So if you can, yes.
Comment on that.
Oh, you know.
Because I have the thyroid issue. Cook them. It's better, you can still eat them, but it's better to eat them cooked
Okay.
than raw.
Okay.
With your broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And what's in it, I think it's called like oxalate. And same with spinach. So I eat those things cooked more than raw.
Okay.
And that's supposed to be better for your thyroid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Because I didn't want to cut out,
Yeah.
not eating any of those veggies.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big veggie eater.
Yeah.
And the chiropractor that I was seeing at the time, he said, cook it. He said, and it's much better for you.
Okay.
So that's really good. That's a perfect example of using discipline and discernment and saying, hey, I'm going to figure this out, what I can do to still consume this, to still move forward, gathering nutrients and eating the foods that I want to eat. So that's a really good example of that. Thank you. Yes.
You were mentioning like as little processed as possible. Do you have any comments on canned versus frozen or anything
Yes,
like
that's a good reminder. Canned food does not have nutrients in it. Beans do, but canned vegetables have no nutrients in them. They do not hold. But frozen vegetables hold their nutrients. Okay? So I didn't know that for years. Yes, I canned this. And so yeah, freeze your vegetables if you can to preserve them and stay away from the canned in the store and all that. Okay?
So even if you can your own vegetables?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yep, canned in general.
I
Yeah.
will do that.
So Matt's amazing homemade salsa holds no nutrients for me, unfortunately. It's the tastiest.
It's so good though.
It's just a snack for treat and it tastes good.
Yeah. And, yep.
So you mean, like, if we can them ourselves, that's fine, or no?
They taste really good, but unfortunately, yeah, they still don't hold their nutrients. Yeah, yes, very, very briefly. Yep. Yeah. I wanted to hit on, because you reminded me of something, so if you guys don't mind, I just got one more thought on this. About the extremes and the kind of punishment thing. I think I missed this point, which is fine. I just wanted to touch on it really quick, you guys. When I was 12 years old, I had to do a sermon at our homeschool group, and it was like a 7-minute sermon, and I have no idea why I picked this scripture back then. I have no memory of that, but I picked Hosea 6:6, and it says, "For I desire mercy, not sacrifice, and acknowledgement of God rather than burnt offerings." And that verse is obviously like stuck with me, thankfully. And it just kind of reminds me of those extremes that I was talking about earlier when I had all those clients that wanted to go from 0 to 60, and especially Christians that kind of strive after that, or myself, I strived after that. It's like our flesh wants to fix it. Our flesh wants to make it all right, and we want to solve it, and we want to figure it out. Just like with my eating disorder, I wanted to figure it out. Like I wanted to just take it away and figure it out, wake up tomorrow and be better. But we have to let God's mercy wash over us in this area. We have to let his grace wash over us in this area, because he desires to do that, and we can't fix this ourselves. And I think we just like feel guilty because we do have the Holy Spirit living inside of us. We have this conviction saying like, you're not supposed to eat like that. You're supposed to get up and move. And so then we want to punish ourselves. We want to atone and make up for that. But we can't do that. Just like any other sin, God died on the cross for us.
Yeah.
He died and he shed his blood to cover those. So we have to let his mercy and grace wash over us in this area, okay?
It's good.
Any other questions?
So Britt, what would, you said that carbs are good?
Yep.
You know, potatoes, rice, so what is a, weight, what is a good amount of carbs?
Sure.
You know,
Yep.
like per meal, so you know, you sit down and you have a nice, you know, protein, and then you scoop 8, you know, spoons of rice, or, you know, 12,000 potatoes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean, like,
Yep.
what's a good consumption of good carbs?
No, that's a good question. So kind of going back to the nutrient thing, I'm going to focus on that first. So that'll help a little bit at those amounts, but I just generalize a cup of everything. Okay, so say I do like a cup of rice. Matt knows a cup of this. Could you put a cup of but a cup of rice, a cup of meat, a cup of green vegetables. Like that's how my plate would look for dinner normally. And then if I'm still hungry on top of that, I'll do a little more rice and a lot more meat and vegetables. Okay, so does that kind of help? Yeah, about a cup. You'll do really well there.
So would you suggest that for every meal? Like, or just?
I think that goes back a little bit to the activity levels, right? You know, so if I'm working all day, I'm gonna have probably carbs every meal. I'm gonna have carbs definitely in the morning so that it fuels me throughout the day. Carbs throughout the day, so at lunch I'll probably have a bread or sandwich or, you know, something like that if I'm away from home. And then at night I'm gonna have rice as well too. So yes, general thumb, if you're, you know, moving all day, absolutely, absolutely. So
I've heard, like, you need to have a lot of protein, but I'm not sure.
yeah, you do need that. Yeah, I just don't talk about protein because I think everybody here knows you need to have protein, right? And so I don't hit on it a lot, but it's extremely important, and everybody's not eating enough protein. That's how it goes. But everybody's eating too many carbs.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I would like to state too, like fat-free is like a fat thing, but your hormones are created from fat.
Yes, thank you.
If you eat fat, you can have all kinds of mental health issues as well.
Yes.
Because your body's not creating the estrogen, the testosterone, the other things that it needs.
Yes.
Fat to meet. So stop eating like
Fat-free.
everything.
Yes, thank you. That was one of the buzzwords I was looking for earlier, and I couldn't think of it. That's true. Yep, fat-free just means more of something else anyways.
Actually,
So,
in the scientific part of that, fat-free is they break the fat molecule, so then they can actually say it's fat-free because the molecule as a whole is not actually fat-free.
Sure. Yeah, see? That's the same with organic. They're getting in there, and they know how to get you.
So I have one last question.
Yep.
Maybe, unless I think of more, but so I find that when you described, you get up, you take your kids to school, you run to work, you're doing all these things, and you find you didn't eat anything. But then on, Saturday when I have nothing to do and I'm sitting around, I'm eating everything. But I find that I'm not hungry in the morning, like on a normal day when I'm running and doing all the things. So I want to fix that. I want to train my body to eat healthier. So even though I'm not feeling hungry in the morning, but I know I've got a lot of things to do, should I eat
I'm glad you brought
something?
that up because, especially hitting on the eating disorder, it's definitely not always over consuming. It's a lot of the time, if not more, under eating is an eating disorder too. And so, not saying you have that. I'm just
I definitely
saying I'm
don't
glad you
have
brought
that.
up under eating or no appetite because that happens a lot. And so I know it's like seems like to keep the easy answer, but it really is just like you need to submit that unto the Lord and then focus on that nutrient. Okay, like I know I might not be hungry, but I know that my body needs nutrients, and the more that you give it what it needs, the more it's going to want that. It's going to trust that you're giving that. Okay, so like we talked about how when you're eating too much on one day and too much, your body when you eat, not enough on a busy day, it puts it in that starvation mode. So then on the day that you're eating a ton, it's gonna hold on to those calories. Okay, so it gets it in this just off cycle, and it doesn't work for you. Your body doesn't work for you, but the more that you give it what it needs, even if you don't feel like you need it, the more it's gonna listen to that, and it's gonna work with you to say, hey, I need a little bit of food. But the more you just allow it to do kind of whatever it wants, it sounds weird saying it that way, but it's gonna just continue to do that.
Okay.
And so that's where you say, God, I don't have an appetite at all, but I know that my body needs these nutrients, and so you don't have to eat like a huge plate.
Sure.
I'm gonna get a little protein, get a balanced meal in. Focus on nutrients, get a little fruit, get a little vegetable, eat a little bit of egg. Back to the snack thing, like breakfast can look like sometimes I eat hamburger and eggs for breakfast. You know, like it doesn't have to look like a sugary breakfast food at all.
Yeah.
You know, it can be a nutrient dense meal.
Okay.
Did I answer your question fully, Michelle? I think so. How about protein? Kind of got off it quick, but protein is extremely important, and it's different levels for everybody, and so that's kind of a hard one to answer. But if you're looking for like, hey, how much do I specifically need? Just like you could ask me offline, and I can get you those amounts. Yep.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Over here. Just to answer your question as well, Sarah, I think it goes back to when you start eating like broccoli, we'll just use that, and you don't like it, and you have to train yourself, or you gradually grow back to that. I didn't eat breakfast my whole life. I mean, like I worked all day long, never ate breakfast, starved by lunch. I almost felt sick eating breakfast in the morning. And I didn't start eating breakfast until we got married. And even it took probably months to years to get used to eating breakfast to where I'd wake up and I actually wanted it, knew I needed it. And it just took so much time of training my body back to, I need this to start my day because I know I'm gonna be busy, I'm not gonna eat for a long time, I'm gonna need it later. And now it's like, oh, I need to eat breakfast, you know?
Yeah.
You need to eat breakfast to make it through the day.
Okay.
And breakfast doesn't have to be, you know, bacon and eggs or something big. I mean, it can be a yogurt.
Again, what do you got going on that day? You know, if you're just going to sit at the office, just give your body a little bit of energy to get through till lunch, you know?
Yeah.
But if you're going out on a hike with the, you know, grandkids, then you need a little bit more.
Is dairy good? I'm just thinking broccoli with my like veggie dip.
Yeah, if you like dairy, dairy's good. Okay, if your body handles dairy well, that's okay. Just, again, within moderation, just like anything, have a good balance. Dairy does tend to cause a lot of inflammation in people's bodies, so if you have any sort of autoimmune or you're dealing with a lot of health issues or sick a lot, cutting out dairy can be very significant. Go ahead.
Since you brought up inflammation.
Yeah.
I've heard more than once that nightshade vegetables are not necessarily good for you, that they cause inflammation.
That what vegetables?
Nightshade.
Nightshade.
Like tomatoes,
Eggplant.
eggplant, there's a lot of them. But
Yeah. I've actually never heard that, but I know that when you get into more of the dietitian side of things versus the nutrition side of things, you hear a little bit more of those details, because for the average person, it's probably not an issue, but people with certain diet restrictions, sometimes will have issues with stuff like that. Does that make sense, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's like, if you're on certain medications too, like you shouldn't
Sure.
have grapefruit and other things.
Right, yep.
Or green
So
veggies.
that's kind of my knowledge with it in that area, is that for the general population, shouldn't have to worry about that.
Okay.
But for some people, yes, absolutely. Back to the dairy thing, though, one more thing on that. Did you know that we're all naturally lactose intolerant?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you do have issues with dairy, that's naturally like how you are. But we've like consumed so much dairy that a lot of our bodies are able to adapt to that. And if you can, that's great. Like I'll have milk every now and again, you know, and that's awesome. I like it. It tastes delicious. But if you have issues with dairy, that's kind of expected. So, yep.
I know, I had surgery like 3 years ago, and I had part of my colon, like 9 inches of my colon removed. And so from there I had to kind of watch what I ate and started, and I thought, oh, gluten-free and soy-free and this free and that free and everything. And so everybody thinks that, oh, that's healthy. Oh, no, you really have to learn to read the labels, because like you said, there's so much stuff that they add and put in, and
yeah, yep, that's gonna cause more issues, or it doesn't solve anything, create something new, and then you don't know what works.
Well, and I know like when we do something, we'll do a gluten-free setup for certain people.
Yep.
When we do
Yes, I
something
know,
at church,
I've had a cake.
And other people say, oh, I want to try I want gluten-free. I didn't order it, but I want it gluten-free because it's healthy. No, that's what people have to eat, and, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
they're watching, and
Yep. Yeah,
just
back to
because
the dietitian
something's
thing.
gluten-free doesn't mean that it's
Healthier.
fat-free,
Yes,
sugar-free,
yes,
or
yes.
healthy, yeah.
Yep,
So,
100%.
yeah.
Yep.
So
And
what do you think about smoothies and juicing?
so the only thing I think it's great because I mean if you want to juice your food, that's fine, but I wouldn't recommend it all the time, because back to that chewing thing, like your body, when it's chewing the food, it helps it digest it better. Obviously juices are going to kind of shoot through you, and plus you don't want to spoon feed your digestive system all the time because it can slow it down. So like your digestive system is meant to break things down. So if you're constantly like, that's why like when you drink a soda, it's so bad for you because it's instantly in your digestive system and it doesn't need to do anything. It doesn't have to work. It doesn't have to process it. It doesn't have to produce heat to, get it out of your system. So juicing is good because, I mean, for sometimes if you enjoy it, but I wouldn't recommend it all the time because your body, your digestive system needs to chew, it needs to process food, it needs to consume it that way. That's how we're designed to kind of consume it. So every now and again, and it's fun and shakes and whatever, but just don't make it like the only way that you're consuming nutrients.
And fats. There's good fats, bad fats, right?
Yeah, yep. So I used to like,
It's real food versus not real food.
it is. Thank you. Yeah. And I used to rattle this stuff off like it was like all I talked about, but now it's like, oh man, I gotta think about that for a second. But yeah, exactly, real food. So avocados. We even do a little bit of butter. You can have a little bit of different types of fats, but focus on the real foods like coconut oil, olive oil. Like you think of the Bible, like we talk about olive oil all the time, and I love that because it's like dates and pomegranates and honey. I'm obsessed with that. Like our sugars are honey and dates and maple syrup. Like that's our main sweeteners, and it's just so cool because they had those all in the Bible, and it's like that's so simple to think, And so just think of fats like that. Yeah, same sort of thing. Real whole foods. And I know you guys are like, this is too simple. Is this really how we got to eat? And that's really how we have to eat. And start there. Again, like then you might notice something like, man, I'm still just whatever. And then we look into it a little bit deeper of, you need more of this, you need less of that. But if you start there, you guys will start to transform your life. And I'm not just saying just like the biblical side, which it all is biblical, but it's like physically, mentally, emotionally, how you sleep, everything will start to change.
Mm-hmm. Is bread processed? Is bread considered processed?
Bread is considered processed, but I will eat sourdough bread. Angela is an amazing baker. And that's better for your gut too. So, but I just don't have that for every single meal. It's not the carb that I choose every time I eat.
Okay.
Okay, I can take one more, otherwise we're gonna pray. Okay. All right, thank you guys so much for those questions. Really, really good. We could sit and do, I could sit and do this all night. I don't know about you guys, but. All right. So I want you guys to be bold tonight. And if you're willing and you feel the Lord like pressing on your heart to repent in this area like I had to, I want you guys to stand up. And I know I just kind of went into